Precious Phiri, who comes here from Zimbabwe. And I'm excited that she's here. And I just had a little conversation with her at dinner. And lo and behold, I said, when are you going to do the Global Earth Repair Conference in Africa? And she's already started planning. Thank you, Precious.
Well, you have to start planning because this is Kira. Like, you have to have an answer. Thank you, Michael. Okay. I am from Africa, where you do not speak after the elders have spoken. But also, we say the elders open the way. So I'm just going to take the elders open the way as a way of respecting our elder who just gave us a talk tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. I didn't realize you were so many. It's such an honor to have everyone giving you a gift of their ears. Thank you to the GERC for organizing. Can you just rumble? Well, so I'm just going to go straight to the business of the day. I got this little picture handwritten from my friend. It says, and then in 2019, everyone came together and fixed the climate. Even though it was hard, that was our finest hour. Well, I mean, we didn't fix it this weekend, but who agrees with me that we are definitely on the track? One spirit, one heart, one soul. And so this whole weekend is an hour, our finest hour. I feel like we are sharpening each other, giving each other so much love in the spirit of bringing solutions to probably problems that we caused ourselves, but we are the remnant that is in the world that realizes that there are solutions instead of despair. So I'll just go straight to the business of the day. But before I do, let me break your hearts once and for all and show you where I come from. Yeah, so you choose whether you'll be heartbroken or you want to take my contact so that you visit me. My name is Precious Phiri. I'm from the beautiful town of Victoria Falls. That fall is 111 meters tall with water, fresh water. So we eat freshwater fish and on the mighty Zambezi River. I'm a girl who spends most of her time behind cows. Well, walking behind cows and with cows and with nature and in nature. I am a rural girl from Zimbabwe, working to regenerate our traditional lands in Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. Raised by a grandmother, it's been wonderful to listen to Grandmother Agnes, Grandmother Rita, and my hosts are grandparents who stay with their granddaughter. So my grandmother, may she rest in peace, was a hero and still is. In dire poverty, that is not a standard African home. That is an African home of an impoverished, maybe vulnerable family. I was orphaned at a young age. I'm the tall girl with the white head. I mean, I've never lost the smile. And I was the oldest in my family, cousins and sister. My grandmother passed and I was 16 when she passed. So I literally took care of everyone else before we were dispersed to stay with many relatives. So I'm sharing this picture to share that sometimes things that you go through inspire you for the better, or they can make you worse. But I'm thankful that all my life, we started working in people's fields when I was 9 years old for a bucket of maize so that we can have food. We eat a maize meal and vegetables and meat. We call it Papa Sadza Ischwala. And at that age, it really intrigued my mind to say, we do not have to always suffer this much when you have land, because land is wealth, land is life. So the impoverishment in agriculture and in my family, there was lots of love at home, but just not enough resources for us to have a decent living or decent housing. But that inspired the person that I am. Also, I'm from a country that depends on agriculture, and 70% of our food comes from rural communities. You know, Africa and Asia, about 80% of those economies are dependent on smallholder farmers. So here it is. What life or what hope is there for a farmer with a cow that thin at the peak of the rainy season? These photos are from this year's rain, taken in March, at the peak of the rains in my region. And we have that on the left, or is it to the right for you? That is supposed to be a river. What do rivers contain? Water. But then what we see is silted rivers with no water. When there is water, it just flash floods and goes to the next city or the next place. Down below, we have had the hardest drought this year in my country, at least in Western Zimbabwe. That is supposed to be maize, but it didn't make it to fruiting. We had less than half of our average rainfall that falls in a year. This man here is in water like this. That's Eastern Zimbabwe. On the Western Zimbabwe, drought, and crops are failing. Eastern Zimbabwe, drought. People are dying from water. What is the problem? And then we have, do you remember Western Zimbabwe? Drought. Do you remember? Western Zimbabwe, drought, crops failing, that plain rangeland. In the same Western Zimbabwe, we have an institute called the Phiri Center, which is Africa Center for Holistic Management. Same land, same rainfall. Same land, same rainfall, but that. What is the problem? Is it our cattle? Is it us? Is it choices? Is it decisions? Was there a reason for me to starve growing up? What was the problem? Let's explore. I'm an educator in holistic management. I work with ranchers, but mostly my favorite place is communal lands, because that's where I grew up. And in growing up, even in my career and engagement with people, I've also connected with a beautiful organization called Regeneration International, where we are spreading all regenerative practices. And we want this to spread Africa-wide and everywhere. There is no need for us to struggle when our inheritance is the land. There is no need for us to beg or to ask for food when we can learn from our nature and the natural systems and how we can adapt them to our everyday life. Our ancestors, thank you. Our ancestors evolved with wildlife, cattle, they were cattlemen. They had sheep, they had goats, they had chickens. In Africa, the men owned the cattle and the women owned the chickens. But we owned something, all of us. Amen to that. Yes. Yeah, so we watched how the wild herbivores, when they ate grasses and they had pecking hunters, as that picture says, how they kept moving because they needed to go and find new food and move away from their poop and urine. Wherever they had left, they would have plowed the land, and when they leave and it rains, that patch recovers, which we call recovery periods. When it rains, you have beautiful clean water streams with effective water cycles where water comes straight down into the ground and recharges the underground water, and you get water from the springs, not water that came up and is flowing and the streams are brown. That's how African rangelands evolved, and we lived with our wildlife, so that's why we have that picture. Wherever wildlife had passed, we have the dung beetle, the doctors of the roads that are healing the land. A man called Alan Savory looked at this. So we learned that environmental works or the nature is complex. It cannot be managed in pieces unless you look at the whole. Everything, whatever I do today will affect the next thing. So my decision should be whole. So that's where we come out of with holistic management. Making decisions that are sound economically, biologically, socially, politically, and whatever alley that you can think of. They have to be sound. So that is my specialty. Well, not specialty. That is what I've been learning. Is that acceptable? So that is a side picture of network building. Despite being a rural girl who works with rural communities, it's been amazing to bring our story as Africa to bigger platforms. To say, can we all sit down with policy? So these were the French embassy, all embassies in Africa coming to talk to African farmers and practitioners. We brought in about 150 people in one room, and I was a proud planner of this meeting, and we started the conversations that they should continue, and we look forward to hosting more. So that was a side for free. Back to our story. Can we look at these pictures? They are differentiating pictures. 2 March 2019. I'm sorry, that's written in white, but I hope you can read. The Africa Center at the bottom, which is the Savory Hub, where they are implementing holistic management at a massive scale with over 500 head of cattle. And then at the top, the same community with probably equal numbers of livestock, but not the same management. Because the problem is not the animals, it is not even the people, but the decisions that we make in how we manage our resources. So look, a dry river and a river that is full of plant cover. We know cover is very important as much as our mulch is important in our gardens. At the top, one thin cow at the peak of rains. At the bottom, a whole herd with enough food that they can accommodate even neighboring communities. My role is to then say, how do we bring this beauty to the rural Zimbabwe, where land is communally owned? The dynamics are different. The game changes. It's not about the technical content that you know, but it is about how to build and bring consensus to people so that we all have this burning passion to live again, to survive again. That is, I've heard a few Americans go, your girl. So that their standing is your girl. Doing trainings at communities. We use participatory methods and participatory approaches to really just build back our dignity, to know that everyone in the community has a voice and we can all participate in the decision-making of reclaiming our lives using sound decision-making techniques. I wrote down there, restoring the dignity of the culture of herding. I believe that each culture has regenerative practices that we have lost along the way due to industrial agriculture or the introduction of urbanization. In my context, the introduction of industrial urbanization, men were the ones who kept cattle. Men were the ones who planned how they moved animals. But when urbanization came, it was more noble to go and work in the city. And now the craft of herding, which is the craft of land stewardship, has been left to boys or young boys who have failed in school. So it is no longer a prestigious work to do, but it is for those who don't have a plan in life. But I have felt like we need to regenerate this culture, this beautiful culture of herding, beautiful culture of being land stewards and land managers. So in that sense, I do programs I have people that I call fire souls, people who have a will and a wish to work. You mentor them. They are the ones who will carry on the work, so I'm sure that speaks for itself. And the fire souls are both men and women, as long as they have a passion for the land where we live in. With community members, we plan together after a whole process of holistic management, education, and coming up with our context and dreams. What is our dream for the future compared to now? And so we do all that We bring out maps. They are handwritten. They don't have any scale. Forgive us, but it is just to identify what resources we have on our land, where is our water source, what are the needs of our animals and ourselves, and what do we want to improve on our land. That is spelled out. So that is our first herd with the community that I've been working in. We have 102 cattle in the herd, and this is not easy to bring in many households. There are trust issues, there are fighting issues. So this is just one example of one community that has already started to roll. In that process, some of the cattle are put in the crop fields so that we do not use synthetic fertilizers or pesticides. But cows and goats and sheep, they dung and urinate in crop fields, and then we plant using minimum tillage. Those are the crops, dense plots of crops with diversity and cover crops, because we don't have lots of rainfall, but you can see the crop looks beautiful. And the next door neighbor's crop will be looking sad. And this is a beautiful thing to do in a country where sometimes government programs or other NGO programs threaten the validity and the integrity of agriculture in communities. That soil is the same soil. I mean, these are rural communities who say we have to showcase this. So one soil was treated with livestock or animal impact, the other one wasn't. So you can see already the other soil has got food. So they carry that and share it with their neighbors when we do our showcases of food. Women and productivity of crops, they sing the whole day. Because they are the very ones who get worried first about what everyone will eat. So they are such a powerhouse with such kind of work in rural communities. Where there is food, women will be there. And not in a bad way, but because they care and they love. Can I hear women say yes? And so this is our harvest of cowpeas, a good source of protein, because we don't have meat to eat every day, but we have our food from the soil. And then that picture is a bit dark, but these are all the seeds that we preserve naturally. We start to roll out our little seed bank from places where we knew we didn't use any synthetic fertilizer, we didn't use any pesticide, and we are winning, but one ball at a time. We're preserving seeds. And then because of the drought and the fear of what will we eat, what will our animals eat, we keep visiting the Phiri Center. By the way, Phiri Institute has hubs across the world, and they are healing millions of lands. For us, the Phiri Center in Zimbabwe is a beacon of hope, and we go there to say, look, our lands are there, but just next door, there is betterment of life. So, you give herders lots of courage to keep going. This is our little group photo that we took. Our herders are both male and female. We do this work together. My dream in restoring the legacy of herding is to then start implementing livelihood sources for those who are in herding, to restore the dignity of this skill in our society. So it's work that is going on, and let's keep our eyes open for more. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.